Concept and processes of software reverse engineering. The concept of software reverse engineering simply refers to the processes involved in software reverse engineering. In other words, the overview of software reverse engineering. For the easy understanding of the processes involved in software reverse engineering, let us first identify the various forms of software engineering. The first form of software engineering is forward engineering. Software forward engineering is basically the normal systematic procedure involved in the formation and development of a software. In other words, the software development lifecycle. Though the software development lifecycle have been grouped into 7 phases, namely the planning phase, the analysis phase, designing phase, development phase, the testing phase, the implementation phase, and the maintenance phase. For the purpose of software reverse engineering, the 7 phases of software development lifecycle is categorized into 4 main phases. That is, the requirement phase, the analysis phase, the design phase, and the implementation phase, respectively. Using the 4 categorized phases, simplified out of the 7 phases of the software development lifecycle, to represent forward software engineering, before a software is developed, a software developer is first expected to gather requirements about the software. The requirements may include the expected functionalities of the software, the capabilities of the software, the required technological resources needed for the functionalities of the software, and the expected graphic user interface of the software. After the gathering of all necessary requirement details, the software developer is then expected to analyze the gathered requirement details in order to design a complete and comprehensive software, which is expected of him. Design in this context is the full development and completion of the software. Upon the full development of the software is then moved into the implementation phase, which includes the software testing, the piloting of the software, and the full deployment of the software to its maximum usage. Back to the various forms of software engineering. The second form of software engineering is reverse engineering. Reverse engineering, in the context as a form of software engineering, is the act and processes involved in reverting a completely designed software to the core of its source code. As forward engineering involves the systematic procedure of a software development, that is, from the requirement phase to the analysis phase, then to the design phase, and then lastly to the implementation phase, reverse engineering have its systematic procedure beginning with the implementation phase, then to the design phase, then to the analysis phase, then lastly to the requirement phase as its systematic procedure. The implementation phase, which is the fully developed software in reverse engineering, is the phase where information such as the basic functionalities of the software, the graphic user interface design of the software, the system requirements of the software, and the information regarding the specification of the software is gathered by observing and using the fully developed software. It's important to note that the outlined gathered information about a software to be reversed provides a software reverse engineer with the overview of what to expect during the software reverse engineering process, and also provide the reverse engineer with a better understanding of the workings and the functionalities of the software that will be reversed. Proceeding to conduct reverse engineering on a software without having the understanding of how the software works and its overview will affect the final findings of the reverse engineering and may even make it very difficult to read meaning into the source code and its structure. So for this reason, I highly recommend you to always understudy the software to be reversed in its fully operational form before beginning with the analyzation of its source code. The next phase, which is the design phase, is the phase where a structure chart in the form of a flow chart is identified and designed in order to determine and record the processing details of each model of the software structure in a procedure flowchart using a structured language like a decision table. From the Identify Design Structure flowchart, a set of data flow diagrams are derived to show the flow of data among the processes for record. It's important to note that the processing design of a software is attained from the source code of the software to be reversed. To simply put, the source code of a software is extracted in the design phase, but for the purpose to determine the functioning data flow processes of the software. If the main purpose of the software reverse engineering being conducted is to just either clone or redesign the software, or to just copy the features of the software, then the source code of the software can be copied or cloned in the design phase. In other words, the software reverse engineering lifecycle ends in the design phase. That is, if the software reverse engineering is not being conducted for the purpose to investigate a backdoor or a malware. But if the software reverse engineering being conducted is for the purpose to review the source code or to analyze the source code for either a malicious reason or for the determination of the functionalities of the software, then the processing of the software reversing is further taken to the analysis phase. Aside for the purpose of reviewing or analyzing a software source code in the analysis phase for either a malicious reason or in order to investigate the functionalities of the software, a software source code can be analyzed in the analysis phase for the following reasons: to determine if there is a hidden backdoor in the source code of the software. Another purpose is to determine if there is a malicious injected code embedded in the source code of the software, or to determine if there is any secretive functionalities of the software. That is, if the software is designed to steal data to a remote server. Software reverse engineering is sometimes conducted if there is any existence of a side effect of a software. That is, if the software is serving as a botnet or as a keylogger. Last on the list of the possibility of reviewing a source code or conducting a software reverse engineering is to crack a software. That is, to examine the source code in order to bypass the licensing process. Aside these outlined purposes for software reverse engineering and source code reviewing, there are so many other reasons for conducting software reverse engineering and reviewing of a software source code. But as an experienced and professional software reverse engineer and a software source code reviewer, I recommend you to always conduct software reverse engineering and as well as to review the source code of a software you intend to purchase or use. This is because in most of the times that I've been consulted to review a source code or to conduct a software reverse engineering, I often come across malicious scripts embedded and hidden in the software, and always in the blind side of the person purchasing the software or the users of the software. So as a software reverse engineer and a software source code reviewer, I urge you to always advise corporate bodies and individuals who seek or intend to purchase a software or a hardware device to have the source code of the software to be reviewed, as well as to conduct a software reverse engineering on the software. Though the lesson is really on software reverse engineering, I advise you to always conduct a hardware reverse engineering on any hardware cyber device you intend to buy, in order to be determined or to be convinced that the software or the hardware device that you are purchasing have no malicious script embedded in it or have no hidden malicious functionalities, aside its outlined purposes and functionalities. The requirement phase is the last phase of software reverse engineering. As the requirement phase in the forward software reverse engineering is used in gathering informations which aid in the designing of a software, information regarding the findings and observations made during a software reverse engineering and the software source code reviewing is also gathered for the documentation, record keeping, and for the presentation of the findings of the software reverse engineering and source code reviewing in the requirement phase of the software reverse engineering. That is, if the software reverse engineering is being conducted for a commercial purpose or for a corporate institution or for a purpose of an investigation. For a standard and more professional documentation of your findings and observations made during a source code reviewing or a software reverse engineering from the beginning to the last minute of the software reverse engineering process. Narrating and explaining into details the methodologies you use and your observations during the source code reviewing and the software reverse engineering in both an audio file, written and a printed document will make your findings and presentation court admissible. It will also make it easier for non-technical individuals to be able to read meaning into your findings and documentation. With the processes involved in software reverse engineering clearly detailed out, we can now proceed to the practical lab session for a real-time software reverse engineering, beginning from the next session.